We've been discussing the dangers of Aadhaar, and we've had 2 episodes so far. I've been talking to Colonel Mathew. The first episode was introducing Aadhaar, about what it's all about. The second episode was about the data and what's happening to the data. And as we said earlier, it is pretty grotesque. It is extremely dangerous. Data of 1 billion people and more, have been collected, and we don't know what's happened to that data. And in fact, a lot of these companies have been caught for fraud. And the concerned minister said that 35,000 enumeration centers have been closed down because of fraud. And now, in fact, if they've done fraud, it only means that data of people has been misused. So what will happen to this data that's been misused? What will happen to the people whose identity has been compromised? These are issues that we're going to talk about in this particular episode. We will also talk about the contract itself, because we believe that, or we are made to believe that the government is collecting the data, but it's in fact it's private companies with a lot of dubious backgrounds who are also part of this whole data collection. So we'll talk about contracts of Aadhaar, on how the government of India has signed agreements with foreign companies in this episode. Colonel, welcome again.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So it's about agreements, and you are one of those first people in India who got into this and tried to understand Aadhaar for whatever it was. And one important aspect of it is what is the actual terms of reference, the agreement that the government of India has signed to these private contractors.
Thank you, Kshitij, once again. And as usual, before I start, I'll preface it with a request or a statement. I would like to openly challenge anybody in government and the UIDA officials to debate with me on this scheme, its utility, its dangers, and so on. It's an open challenge in an open forum. They can invite me anytime. I'll come and we can have a debate so that we understand, the people of this country understand what it is. The first episode, when we introduced what the scheme is all about, so that the people may know, I had mentioned on how biometrics is fallible. It just doesn't work across large populations. And then in the second episode, we had talked about the enrollment processes and how small companies have been chosen at random, and many of them have indulged in fraud, and 34 or 35,000 enrollment centers have been closed down. Now, what has happened to that data is one aspect. The second aspect is, I am told recently, 150 million people's data has been deleted, and they have been asked to re-enroll because these 34,000 enrollment centers have been closed down.
How many?
150 million people.
My goodness.
It's more than the population of UP. So that is the kind of thing which went on due to this enrollment system, and the system has not changed. And mind you, the Supreme Court, in one of its earliest orders, has said the UIDA must ensure that illegal immigrants are not enrolled. And I mentioned in the previous interview that when illegal immigrants working as contract labor in the local army headquarters were enrolled, the RTI reply of the UIDA told me that they've told the police that these are genuine enrollments. So here is Supreme Court saying illegal immigrants should not be enrolled, and here is UIDA saying illegal immigrants who have been enrolled genuinely. So I do not know who is right or who is wrong. It's actually a Alice in Wonderland situation. Now, coming back to these contracts, the enrollment agencies have contracts with the registrars, not with UIDA. UIDA itself has contracts with foreign private companies. So your data is being collected by 4 small firms who have contracts with the registrars. They're not even contracts, it's an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. And in fact, in one of the arguments Mr. Shyam Diwan brought out in the Supreme Court, these are not even enforceable. And therefore, cancelling the so-called enrollment centers or closing them down is no solution at all. It's like bolting the stables after the horses have run away. Now, coming back to the UIDA contracts, they have not gone through a normal tender process of the government. What has been done is what is known as request for proposal. UIDA has arbitrarily picked up a few firms. These are probably people who have come through a lobbying system. They picked up these firms, all of whom again have not very creditworthy backgrounds. In fact, one of them has been found guilty in US courts under 3 US acts: the Anti-Kickbacks Act, the Truth in Negotiation Acts, the False Claim Acts. Under these 3 acts, one of these firms has been found guilty by a US court and fined $63 million. So that's one of the companies who has been given a contract. When I say this is arbitrary and it is an illegal choice of companies, this is one of the things which has been done. Then I have found that these contractors they serve foreign intelligence agencies. And one of them have directors who are former officials of FBI and CIA. In fact, this is a screenshot of one of those firms. I don't know, can you zoom in on this? You can zoom in on this? Yeah. So this is one of the firms, L1 Identity Solutions, now taken over by a French company called Safran and renamed as Morpho Trust. You will notice that the founder directors of this firm are Louis Freeh, former director FBI, George Tenet, former director CIA, Admiral James Loy, former deputy secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Robert Gelbard, I think, former assistant secretary of state and US ambassador, Buddy Beck, founder of Transdigital Technology and member of US Defense Science Board. Now these are the kind of officials who are on the board of this company, and they are serving foreign intelligence agencies. They are contractors to FBI, CIA, and to the US Homeland Security and Defense Department.
Was this discussed in the parliament? I mean, you're talking about the Aadhaar data which is being collected, and one of these companies which has been contracted to do it is a company which is headed by people who have also headed the FBI and the CIA. This is compromising the entire data of people in India. And this is an extremely serious issue. I mean, has it been discussed in the parliament? How did this happen?
I do not know how this happens, because I have talked to a lot of politicians, present ministers, past ministers, ministers in state government, and I've told them all this, and I've shown them all this documentary proof. In fact, when I showed part of this contract to one of the former ministers in the Karnataka state government, he told me, oh, this is serious, but we have to take it up with the party high command. And there the matter ended. I cannot understand why no MP or MLA has raised this issue in any assembly, legislature or parliament. They've not just raised it. I mean, either it is a lack of understanding of the seriousness of it. I do not know what it is. One explanation could be that many politicians or their relatives may have enrolling agency MOUs with the registrars. So some of them get money through this enrolling process.
Yeah, but this is also about national security. In fact, on the flip side, I would want to ask if the US government, if ever they had an Aadhaar kind of mechanism in their own country, would allow for anyone, an Indian company which is headed by a CBI officer, to be a contractor in the US.
That's a nice question. In fact, it's interesting, the US government, the Bush administration, passed in 2006 what's called the National ID Act. Real ID Act. It was UK which passed the National ID Card Act. Bush passed the Real ID Act, and that was for incorporation of biometrics into driving licenses. Now that was passed in 2006. We are in 2017. It has not been implemented. And there's no foreign company involved in it. I'll come to the contracts and show you how much of the data is compromised. When you look at the contract, in fact, the next thing is there has been an attempt by UIDAI to hide the country of origin of these contractors. I have here an RTI query which went in for appeal. This was on the appeal order is based on 21st July 2011. Now the appellant had in March 2011 asked for the country of origin of these companies, and they were told that this information cannot be given. Then he went in appeal, and the reply of the appellate authority is this. I will read this out to you. The reply says, there are no means, mind you, this is the appellate authority under RTI of UIDAI, an officer of the rank of Deputy Director General. And he replies saying, there are no means to verify whether the said companies, organizations are of US origin or not.
My goodness.
Here is a department of the government of India signing contracts with the foreign companies and saying that they have no means of finding out the country of origin. And with difficulty, and I'll tell you with what difficulty I got the contract. This is the contract copy of one of those companies, and the first page of this contract lists the address of the company as Delaware, USA.
Delaware.
Delaware, USA. And the complete address is given in several pages inside. So how does the appellate authority say that he cannot find out the US origin? Evidently, it's an attempt to hide this.
So these are official documents that you've received through RTI.
Yes.
And it just seems that the UIDAI, so the government of India, has been involved in layers and layers of fraud, and this fraud is being played upon the people of India.
People as well as onto the government themselves. Who's playing the fraud, I do not know. I'm sure that the PMO or the Prime Minister may not know that this contract has been given to such companies. If they know, why would they keep quiet? It is being played on to everyone. Who's playing it is something which one has to find out. Who's playing this fraud? There was this crime, I would call it a crime.
So who signed this on behalf of the UIDAI?
One Mr. Nanavati, he is Deputy Director General or Director General.
Okay.
He's a person of Director General, DDG, Deputy Director General, UIDAI, Mr. B.B. Nanavati. He has signed it on behalf of UIDAI. And initially they wouldn't give me this contract. So they took recourse to section 8(1)(d) of the RTI Act, which talked of commercial confidence. Anything of a commercial nature cannot be divulged. So I said, look, this is of public interest and public money is being spent, so I appealed. The appellate authority also turned it down. Then I went in appeal to the CIC, the Central Information Commission, or the Chief Information Commissioner. The Central Information Commissioner at that time, the Information Commissioner who dealt with my case, was one Sushma Singh. She told the UIDAI people that senior officials must attend the next hearing. That was sometime in August 2013. She said that senior officials must attend the next hearing, which is in 10th of September or so, 2013, and that they must justify the application of the exemption clause in the RTI Act. So on the 10th of September when they came, they brought a letter. They gave the letter to me and to the Information Commissioner, and they said that the contractual obligations are finished. We have no objection in giving the contract copy to me. And they asked me to pay about 900 or 1,000 rupees and collect it from them. I collected that. When I collected the copy and examined it, I found annexures missing. So then I asked them, where are these missing annexures? And they said, oh, we can't give you these annexures because that information is confidential. Then I went back to the Information Commission and said, here there are they are disobeying your orders. So by then the previous Information Commissioner Sushma Singh had retired, and one Mr. Sabarwal had taken over. Now he was totally new to this, the background of all this, and I do not know what happened. Some kind of, I would call it something like a manipulation happened within the Information Commission. Otherwise, the subsequent events could not have happened. I'm only drawing an inference because the Information Commissioner did not reply to me. I received a letter from one Vijay Balla, one of the registrars in the Information Commissioner, stating that the Information Commissioner had ordered the registrar to check up on compliance of the order. Because one Information Commissioner cannot countermand the orders of another Information Commissioner. So the Information Commissioner, according to the registrar, ordered a verification of compliance of the previous order. And then I sent back again in reply to that the reasons why this should be given and all that kind of thing. Then I received another letter from the Information Commissioner stating that so from this registrar stating that the Information Commissioner has said he cannot modify the order, but he has told the registrar that, and to inform the company concerned that limited financial information will be given. So here is an Information Commissioner actually modifying the order of the previous commissioner, but stating that he is not modifying the order. So I have gone in appeal to the High Court in Delhi. So what I am trying to bring out is...
Has there been any resolve?
The next hearing is on 15th of September this year.
But when did you receive this modified order?
2014.
Oh my goodness, so they've actually taken 3 years to just provide information that was sought?
They have not provided information.
That's what I'm saying. So
yeah, it is in the High Court, it's pending in the High Court from 2014 onwards. So that's what's going on. Anyway, we talk of RTI it's a great tool, but this is the limitations under which they work. There are several RTIs of mine still pending. For example, I've asked them on application development on this so-called Aadhaar platform, and there's no reply. I've appealed to the CIC. It's pending for the last 1 year. So anyway, coming back to this, you will see therefore a willful attempt to hide the contractors, the contract, and their country of origin. I leave it to the public and the government to decide what motivates this attempt to hide. There must be some motivation behind the attempt to hide this contract.
Colonel, I've known that you've tried to contact elected representatives, MLAs, MPs from various parties in India.
Yeah.
And you have actually shown them these documents.
Yes.
And tried to convince them about the dangers, that are there with such contracts and with the other.
Yeah.
And if these elected representatives are not showing any interest, can we assume that the elected representatives themselves are party to this whole process called the Aadhaar and are hence cheating the people of India?
I wouldn't say that, but I often reply to this question with justification saying, why are we speaking English? We are speaking in English because one Mr. Mir Jafar, who was Prime Minister of Siraj-ud-Dawla, walked across with the Bengal Army to the East India Company's Robert Clive. So we became slaves for 200 years. We served a foreign power and they took out the entire wealth of this country. India's GDP at that time was about 25% of the world's GDP. Today we are not even 0.1% or 0.2% or so.
Yeah, when the British came to India, the manufacturing index of China and India combined was 75% of global manufacturing, which was happening in these two countries.
Yes.
And when they left, India's manufacturing was left at about 2%.
Even less, it's a fraction.
Yeah.
It's a fraction. So when you say why the polity, in fact, I have had the opportunity of addressing the BJP parliamentary party in 2014, before the elections. Mr. Advani presided, Mr. Arun Jaitley and Mr. Rajnath Singh were on the dais, and I had prepared a monograph at that time, and they took that, Mr. Advani showed that monograph to the parliamentary party, and he told them, read this book, do not use the word Aadhaar. It's the name of a private trust of Mr. Nilankani. And Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad and a few others walked along with me to TV cameras, and Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad spoke something. The media did not cover that. So it's not just politicians. The media did not cover it at all. Even today the media talks of all kinds of things other than the crux of this issue. That's why we have to take this informal channel to reach the public.
No, but when you had this meeting with the BJP parliamentary committee, party, then
almost 200 MPs.
So they were in the opposition.
They were in the opposition. This was just before the election,
Yeah,
and this was an election issue.
And so the media did not cover this because it was an opposition. It was the opposition that was promoting this.
No, I don't know. See, the media is also, in my view, compromised. As General V.K. Singh said, it's a prostitute media.
Of course, he said it in a different sense
In a
altogether.
different, I am using that today. Why is the media not? In fact, I have talked to Arnab Goswami. I have gone to Bombay. I have given these documents to Times Now. I met Kenneth Hector there and Megha Prasad. I met Bhupendra Chaubey. I met many of these people in the media. I've given them these documents. None of them cover it. None of them cover it. Even when I have been invited to address or participate in TV panels, the anchors talk of privacy. If I tell them about this danger and the data being given to foreign companies, they just keep quiet and it doesn't come out at all. I can't make out, is it an inability to understand, or they are so fixated on some. See, privacy is important, but in the context of this case, it is to my trivial, because the entire data is being taken by riffraff agencies, by contract employees. It's all over the place. So how do you say that privacy rights? Privacy rights has no meaning. And let me draw your attention to clauses in this contract. Clause 15.1 to 15.3, and that says, and you must understand that this contract is read in the context of our so-called privacy concerns, hacking, leakage of data. All those, pale into insignificance and meaninglessness when you look at the contract clauses. This is the contract between UIDAI and a company called L1 Identity Solutions Operating Company Private Limited.
This is the same company which has on its board people from CIA and FBI.
Yeah. All these contracting companies, they are contractors to the US Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and so on. So all this data is directly going to the US intelligence agencies. So this clause 15.1 says, by virtue of this contract, so-and-so company may have access to personal information of purchase, etc., or any resident of India. They have access to personal data of any resident of India. That is what the clause 15.1 says. I have not read it fully, I just partially read it, but it's absolutely clear. And then it says, the data shall be retained by the company, L1 Identity Solutions, for not more than a period of 7 years. That means they not only have access to the data, of personal data of any resident of India, and they are supposed to retain it for 7 years. So what are we talking of privacy or hacking? Or that's why I laugh when people talk of these things. Contractually we are giving them access to all data. Now let us see what they can do with this data. That is in clause 3.1 of Annexure B. And interestingly, the paragraph heading of 3.1 of Annexure B is privacy of data. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
It says, in the course of this agreement, the biometric solution provider may collect, use, transfer, store, or otherwise process. Collectively process information that pertains to specific individuals and can be linked to them, within brackets, personal data. So they are allowed to do whatever they want. They not only have access, they are allowed to use, store, transfer, process, and link.
What does it mean, Colonel? When they say, let's say, transfer.
Yeah. The question is transfer where?
Yeah.
Obviously transfer not to the moon, they transfer it to their own servers or wherever they want. There is no restriction on where they are transferring it. Originally when UIDA started, the entire data was in these foreign servers. Then a question was raised in Parliament and they said yes, that's a mistake, then they transferred it to Indian servers. But if these people are allowed to transfer it, they can transfer it anywhere. The question is in fact, the same question arises in my mind. What is this clause for? Why is this clause there? And why are they keeping quiet? Why does every minister say data is safe, it is secure, when you are handing over data to a foreign private company, which is staffed by former agents, which is a contractor to foreign intelligence agencies? So whenever anybody talks of hacking, leakage of data, and privacy rights, you're barking up the wrong tree. It's like Nero playing the harp while Rome was burning.
Yeah, it's almost. If you go by these contracts, there's no need for any hacking to be done at all, because we've handed over our data.
You're contractually handing over every bit of data continuously. And apart from this, there is the system. Your identification is done by a system called Automatic Biometric Identification System, ABIS. That is in Annexure E. Okay, Automatic Biometric Identification System. This is a proprietary licensed software of the company. And every time you want to deduplicate, and let us say I go and now register or enroll in UIDA, Aadhaar or sham ID as I call it. When you go there, my biometrics is taken, then from the enrolling center, it is sent to the UIDA. They send it to these companies, or they use this company's software in their existing systems, and that software then deduplicates. So UIDI or the government of India have no control of deduplication. The control rests with that software and their equipment. So it is not under Indian control at all. Okay, I'd like to draw your attention to another clause in another annexure. This is Annexure E of the same contract, and it talks of the multimodal biometric deduplication system. And here is a sentence, and this sentence is in italics. The emphasis is in the original. It says, while certain demographic information is also provided, UIDA provides no assurance of its accuracy. Demographic information shall not be used for filtering during the deduplication process. Which means, well, let's try and understand this. First of all, I have shown you that biometrics is flawed across large databases. Now they are saying that demographic data, no assurance of accuracy can be provided. Therefore, they are telling the contractor, you cannot use it for deduplication. Now, as I mentioned in the context of the flawed biometric technology, I said 80 million people were declared duplicates. Now, that happens due to an error called false positive match. That is, one person's biometrics matches another's falsely. My biometrics can be matched with somebody else during the deduplication or authentication process. The only way, that is known as false positive match. The only way that can be resolved is by demographic information and physical verification of the demographic information. There's no other way to resolve such issues. Technologically, it's a defect in the technology. The specifications say that this many number of false matches will take place. Similarly, false rejects take place. I put my biometrics and it rejects me even though I am genuinely there. So both errors are there. And this is UID's admission that it doesn't work. The biometrics doesn't work. The entire data is garbled and garbage. The data, whatever it is worth, is being given to foreign countries. It is being linked to everything: PAN cards, bank accounts, scholarships, exam entry, railway tickets, what have you. There is some kind of tomfoolery going on. Now, at the beginning of this, when I started this campaign way back in 2009, I used to talk to certain of my army colleagues, and they said, "What's your problem? You have nothing to hide. So let the government take this data. This is the general kind of complacent expression I get when I now say that the entire data is being given to foreign private agencies. People say, what can they do with the data? Well, what do you think can they do with the data? Everyone must, from the government to the layman, must think very clearly what can the foreign firms do with this data. If you look at, or if you have read Snowden's revelations, the books and whatever Snowden has revealed, the US National Security Agency is collecting any data it comes across. Emails, telephone conversations, CCTV cameras, whatever, the entire information which flows through the internet is being collected by them, and huge banks of servers are storing this data. Now, how do they use it? One is they use the data to recruit informants. I can use your bank data to either bribe or blackmail you. I can use your telephone conversations to blackmail you. I can use it for various purposes, like if I know your health records, I can harm you by other means. They can use to sabotage your entire cyber system. If this UID number, the sham ID, the so-called Aadhaar number, is linked to every other database, your cyberspace is now in the hands of foreigners. And that is very dangerous. It is a Trojan horse inside you. And there's no way you can protect. As you rightly said, there's no need to hack. The access is contractually provided to the biometric and demographic data. That index number goes then into as the index number for every other database. There's another interesting, what you call deceit in this contract itself. In fact, the UIDAI officials will mention this if you ask them. When the data is sent to these companies for deduplication, they say they do not give the UIDAI number, the random number. They instead give a reference number, so they claim that the foreign company doesn't have your UIDAI number, but only has the reference number. Then what do they mean by the contracts which say they can use, store, transfer, collect, do whatever you want with it? So when you say that they can collect and use the entire data, having this so-called reference number and not UID number is silly. And they're linking it to every database and say you can use it, collect it, transfer it, do what you feel like. So the whole thing, to my mind, is a complete hoax. Another thing which they can do with this, since the foreign company is the one which deduplicates, which its software is used for authentication, they can use it to infiltrate the country with agents. They can be fifth columnists, saboteurs, spies, anyone. For example, David Coleman Headley, whose real name was Dawood Ibrahim Gilani. He is the person who wrecked Mumbai for killing 135 Indians.
Yes.
We didn't even have access to him. He had a US passport. He traveled between Pakistan and India and USA several times doing this reconnaissance. And that is how, and he was guiding the militants in attacking us. Now that, if you say that Aadhaar is used for airport entry, for air tickets, for passports, for everything, you are inviting foreign agents to come into your country using this number and attack you. That is the danger. I have written to the Prime Minister as well as the NSA. I do not know whether the letters reached them or not, because somebody might have filtered it and thrown it down. I would request them through this media to read those letters if available, and please take action to prevent this danger to our country.
Colonel, from what you say, though we do talk about privacy, in fact it is an extremely important issue. What is more important in this particular case is that more than the privacy, it's the contract and the content of the contract that is between the UID authority here in India and the foreign service providers. So it's not that the privacy issue is not important, but even more important is the issue of the contractual agreement.
I would say both are equally important, but we must understand what is going on. See, why is privacy important? Because Magna Carta, my home is my castle. Nobody can enter it. That applies to data. Why should somebody know which doctor I am visiting? Why should somebody know that what scholarship I am getting, or what is my school or college record, or what kind of love affair I had in my teens?
Yes.
Why should somebody know that?
Or the government tracking my movement.
When I mention this love affair, it is very simple. If you find two mobile phones together at several times in the day, and they are different genders, you could obviously make out what they are. So there are several means in which you can analyze data. What I'm trying to say is privacy is extremely important, and there's no need. See, the question is, what is the purpose? I am willing to sacrifice my privacy if my nation is at stake. Yes, certainly. If I am having a foreign agent in my house, the police can come and raid my house. If I got black money or foreign money which I use for illegal purposes, I have no privacy at all. So privacy rights have got its limitations. It has to be weighed against public good. I am willing to sacrifice my privacy. But let us try and understand what this scheme is all about. Privacy is certainly compromised. We'll come to it later. I will prove it to you that it has absolutely no use whatsoever. The danger is it can be misused. It can be abused for targeting individuals, for targeting communities, for targeting geographical localities, for all kinds of abuses. It can be used to the extent that you have some amount of information, even if it is garbage. I only need to know the name. From the name I can make out the religion. From the PAN card or some such thing I can make out the income details. I can use this to abuse those particular communities or people of certain religions or geographical localities. I can sabotage the electoral system by buying votes. I can send money in advance to a certain village or a group of voters. So I would even suggest to the Election Commission, in fact I have written to the Chief Election Commissioner on this, don't link this thing to voter ID at all. And I would now suggest to the Election Commission that they must watch for huge transfers of money into Jan Dhan and other accounts before the elections. The Tamil Nadu elections, people who are giving 1,000 rupee notes by hand. Now, of course, 1,000 rupees is not available, so the parties will give 2,000 rupee notes. They don't have to do that. By the click of a button, you can transfer money into these accounts. And I'm not joking, there's a World Bank report on, I think, Colombia, where exactly similar system was used for transferring money to buy votes. I would like to, last bit of answer to your question, sir, on the dangers. Pakistan and India, and I would request the Prime Minister to note this, Pakistan and India are the only two countries involved in such a large-scale exercise using the same US and French companies. In other words, all our data is in the hands of Pakistan with this kind of companies. And more dangerous is, if I know the so-called Aadhaar number of the Army and Navy and police and raw officials, I know the deployment of the defense forces. I know where the Chief of Army Staff is. Did he visit Dokla? Did he visit Ladakh? Did he go to Sri Lanka? Where did he go? What did he do? I have, if an armored corps general goes, we can easily infer that there's a plan to move one of the armored divisions there. So it is a very dangerous thing which we are doing. And Pakistan and India are the only countries doing it. Whether we would like to have that, all the politicians, political leaders, political parties, bureaucrats must think on this.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you. I think you've raised a lot of issues. And just that I thought we should have this in the next episode.
Yes.
Talk more about this.
Thank you.
Because there are dangers involved in the contractual agreement that is not known to the people of India, and it appears that even the bureaucrats and the elected representatives might themselves not know.
Yes.
And so if people knew that there is this private company which is headed by former Secret Service agents, I do not know if they would still want their data to be given to them.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's already happened.
Absolutely.
In many cases.
Yeah, that is important. Now, at some stage we'll discuss that. I would like to help the government to ensure that the data already in the hands of these foreign companies cannot be used. IT people will be involved. We need to attack that. One last thing I want to say is, yes, I agree with you that many political leaders may have been misled. And when I talk to them, what I find is they find it difficult to understand the danger because they are not IT savvy. They do not understand how this information can be used by foreign countries or foreign agents. So it is necessary to educate the political leaders and the bureaucrats into how this data can be used. And they need to understand what Snowden says. Then only they'll understand how data can be used.
So this, I think the mission should not only to stop Aadhaar, but to also ensure that all the data that they have collected,
yes,
are destroyed.
Not only destroyed, you see, it's very difficult. When UK destroyed the data which they collected, they had a special audit to ensure that the entire data is destroyed. It's difficult to locate the data. Where is it? It is taken from an enrollment center, it's in a thumb drive, it is sent somewhere, it is uploaded into a server. What happened to the thumb drive? Was it destroyed? Is it kept somewhere? Nobody knows. The contract allows them to use, store, transfer, etc. Where is that data? So one has to locate the data. While locating and destroying it, we must look at means by which data which is hidden and not destroyed can never be used. So we must have systems where the data cannot be used against us. And that is possible in my view.
Okay, Kama. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk again.
God
Thank
bless.
you so much.